Begin transmission. Hello, everybody. It is Chris and Ben for Outer Rim Transmission 158. Unfortunately, Milton couldn't join us this evening. He's helping a buddy out moving. Unfortunately, it's like 90-something degrees all across the eastern seaboard here. So we hope that he is able to recover and has a lot of hydration helping his buddy out. So good buddy, good dude out there helping his friend in a heat wave. So how you doing, Ben?
Good. Just pretty much trying to stay cool as well, just like everybody else out this way. I mean, it was a nice 100 degrees today, so you gotta love it. But yeah, doing good. Just doing the normal workout stuff. Always talking Star Wars online with people, so that's always a good time. And yeah, just ready to get into breaking down and talking about this episode of the Acolyte.
Yes, that is worth mentioning. We are talking about the Acolyte and another minor slash big news story for me specifically. So we're getting to all that this week on the podcast. For everybody that is new out there listening, we thank you very much. We are available on any podcast streaming platform of your choice. Just search Outer Rim Transmission and you'll find us anywhere. We also go live every Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern, although, and I'll let you guys know off the top of the hour, we are actually changing our recording time just for next week. We're going live next Friday, prime time, 9 p.m. Eastern. I'm going to be away for the weekend, so I'm going to want to make this show happen somehow. Milton won't be there, but Ben, I'm pretty sure you're going to be there. Otherwise, I'll just go solo if I need to. So that's what's going to happen. You guys can join us next Friday. I know it used to be our usual time years ago, but that is what we'll be doing. And then we'll return to our normal Sunday at 7 p.m. time until I have to go to, like it's almost a bad thing I said, until I have to go to San Diego Comic-Con. Oh, man. God willing, I go to San Diego Comic-Con. But anyway, so yes, that's all coming up on the docket. But yes, for tonight, we're talking to Acolyte. Is there anything you want to share about your week at Star Wars? Because I definitely have something really cool to talk about.
Yeah, I just have like my week in Star Wars. I didn't have any like crazy items or crazy audiobooks. I'm still listening to Outbound Flight, getting through that. That's been really good. More of just like a thing for anybody that's like maybe new here, like listening or like joining in or listening after the fact. I just want to throw it out there for any like potential new listeners or viewers. Like, hey, I'm sure you've seen like a lot of the discourse and things online between fans this week, as it feels like it's ramped up even more with the Acolyte. And like the thing I wanted to put out there for like any new viewers, like, hey, this is like our community here with Outer Rim Transmission is always like a really good, positive community, like open to different opinions, whether you like something, dislike something, anywhere in between. Like, it's always like a good spot to talk Star Wars, because I mean, look, like all three of us here, we don't always agree on everything, which is fine. So, this is like, just want to give a shout out to anybody like that's potentially new here. Like, hey, like this is a good, welcoming community, whether you like something, dislike something, or anywhere in between, because like, I've seen so much like discourse and stuff online between different creators and different fans and things, whether it's like, hey, if you like the Acolyte, you're this, if you don't like the Acolyte, you're this, and everywhere in between. And like, I just wanted to throw out there like, hey, for anyone new here, like, and whatnot, like this is a really good and welcoming community for Star Wars fans.
Oh yeah, Ben, thanks for mentioning that, because the internet is aflame this week, and I feel like a lot of it is just there's people out there on the internet that just doom this thing to fail before even the first episode. So those sorts of people are out there on the internet nitpicking the stupidest things, trying to get traction, and it's just, it just is not working. They're causing a lot of fuss, that's for sure, but it's the way I look at it is, hey, if you don't like the thing, there's those other 6 movies that came out that George did. Those will never go away. You can ignore this stuff. You don't have to care about it. Just don't, attack other people for their opinion.
Yeah, that's how I always view it. Like, even we saw the Peter Mayhew Foundation. They posted a tweet. They were like, hey, if you like the Acolyte, cool. If you're not into it, that's fine too. Like, just whether you like it or don't like it, just don't like attack and bully each other about opinions. It's over a fictional franchise. Like, people forget that. It's like, this is supposed to be a nice like escapism thing. I mean, look at us sitting here talking between you and me, Chris. Like, I definitely am not the biggest fan of Andor, and you love it, but that's fine. Like that's totally fine. So like, people online just forget that sometimes. Like everyone's allowed to have different taste in media and things. Like for example, here's one that might hit our audience like as a shocker. The Lord of the Rings franchise. To me it's good,
Yeah.
but to me it's just another good franchise. It's not like top one franchise. Like, people will put Lord of the Rings in like top one or two franchise ever. And me, if I had to rank it, it wouldn't even be my top five because I personally am just not invested in Lord of the Rings, which is fine. So like, people forget that when you're like talking about shows like The Acolyte and like, everything else that comes out. Like, just because like you like something or don't like something, it's fine. It's fine. And then on top of it, it's like there's always the next thing. Like we always have Outlaws coming out in like 2 months basically, and then we also have Skeleton Crew coming out later this year. Like there's plenty of Star Wars media coming out to consume. Like to me, this is what I was explaining to someone online in the week that was messaging me. Like, everything doesn't, like, for you to enjoy a piece of entertainment, everything doesn't have to be a 10 out of 10. Like,
Yeah.
something can be a 7 out of 10. Like, for example, like with me, unapologetically, I love the Monster Verse franchise, like all the Godzilla stuff, all the
they're
Kong
good.
stuff, love it. But if I compare that movie objectively to a movie like The Godfather, like an all-time great movie, it's not going to hold up. But like, I'm not expecting Godzilla to be The Godfather because I'm expecting a big dinosaur creature to be wrecking shop. So like, like that's what people forget online. At the end of the day, this is entertainment, and it's fine to have differing opinions on entertainment. So like, I just wanted to put that as kind of like my week in Star Wars because, I see so much fan discourse online, and like, like I said, for anyone new stopping by, like that's something just to throw out there. Like, hey, if you like the Acolyte, that's fine. If you don't, that's fine. But just like talk to one another in a very like respectful way versus like attacking personally and things and like all the other extracurricular activities you see on social media.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. So it's a nice message to put out there. We try not to get, embroiled into the discourse. I try to avoid it as much as I can. I don't ever comment on it on Twitter. I'm not trying to add fuel to the fire. So that's why I'm usually pretty quiet about that stuff. But yeah,
Yep.
it affects everything apparently.
Yeah, I figured I'd throw that out there. Like, we normally never address like stuff like that, but the main reason I threw it out there was because, it feels like it was something to throw out there for potential listeners or anybody. Just because, like, if you go and search the Acolyte online, it's hard to find. Just reasonable conversations about it, good or bad, because it's just people shooting arrows at one another. And like, I even had a relative like look up the Acolyte on YouTube. He was like an uncle. He was trying to like just look up a review of it, and he texted me and was like, "Whoa, what's all going on with this?" I said, "Listen, just watch the show
Yep.
and just don't even look at YouTube or social media because like he's in his 50s and is not really on social media. So when he looked into YouTube, he was looking up like a genuine, say like a I don't know, like an old school like a Jeremy John style just 5-minute review versus what's on YouTube with certain folks. So like that's something to keep in mind when you're perusing the internet. But yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there because I felt like that could be applicable just in case like we have any potential new listeners or just even some of our own like people that have been here for a while. Like, hey, it's cool to have different opinions.
Yeah, so segueing to something that could only be construed as a positive. I basked in my glory while opening. I see Chris Forsyth is in the chat, and apologies if this is like way too much for the listeners out there. I'm trying not to like mess with the plastic too much because it could be pretty noisy. But I got these Oreos. Yes, I said in social media I'm doing a food review, and man, oh man, I picked up 2 of these from Target, 2 for $8.
That's
So
awesome.
like this artwork, just looking at the artwork here is just incredible amounts of awesome. I mean, you got everybody on there. You got Luke, you got Han, you got Stormtroopers, Vader, so many. You got Kylo Ren, dark side or light side. open to discover your destiny. So it's interesting because it's like completely random, right? So you don't know what you're getting. I got really lucky, and I was able to get one of each. So you open them up, and it's either the red icing or the blue. But like, what really just got me super hyped is just the quality of the actual cookies.
Oh
right?
yeah, I
Like,
can see that.
the Emperor. Yeah, we're gonna do a little show and tell. Like, they even got Count Dooku. Like,
That is awesome.
They got like this. I thought these would just be a gimmick. I thought they were gonna be just like red icing in the middle and just have the packaging. But no, they went above and beyond. This is the funny one for me for the dark side. A random bike trooper. It's like they couldn't come up with another villain. Because like some of the best like food crossover that Star Wars has had in a very long time. Like the first thing that comes to mind is like the Pepsi cans from 1999 with the Phantom Menace.
Yep.
And the collectability of all that. And you know, I still go on like Facebook groups and I still see those vending machines that were promoting the movie that people have or find still in the wild there, you know. And then here we go. We have light side. Love the blue coloring. Let's see. Let's pull out a couple. These aren't as fun as the dark side ones. I mean, you have so many of the main guys. This one was a little bit hard for me to figure out. I'm assuming that is Rey. But up until then, I was like, who is this? You know. Of course, you gotta have the Grand Jedi Master Yoda.
That's great.
Yeah, you have so many ones. Oh yeah, of course you got the iconic space buns. There you go. You have Obi-Wan Kenobi. Old Obi-Wan. Yeah, the thing is with this one, with the light pack, I would have liked to see more prequel representation. Okay, this is Han. Like, it's basically like the usual suspects. Luke, Han, Leia, you know, Chewbacca, for instance, right here. There is
the droid.
Yeah, the droids. You got the droids. So yeah, that's basically it. If you take this apart, I'm not sure if these have like special icing just for like Star Wars, you know. I'm trying to. Oh, okay. This has got to be something different. I don't remember Oreos having two different colors. It's usually just white. So I don't know. Like, you got a little taste test. Like that's good. Like this doesn't. There's something with the formula. This is not a usual Oreo. Now, granted, I don't usually eat things like this. I try to keep it pretty healthy, but and I know if Milton was here, he'd be giving me grief right now because he wasn't a fan of the blue milk very much either. And that was the one thing I was looking for. I went to Target and then I went right to the milk aisle, and unfortunately, the blue milk is already gone. It was just a limited time. Maybe they'll come around with it every year. But I gotta imagine like the blue milk. Okay, I'm back. I'm back. I somehow went and came back again. It did that to me last week. I don't know if the internet is having issues or what, but oh, he says. Okay, so Chris says they got kyber crystal sugar in the icing.
Oh, that's really cool.
Actually, I gotta open up the dark side ones and look on the center. Why not? All right, this is Emperor Palpatine. I'm gonna open up. Oh yeah, look at that. That's cool.
That is really cool.
So I'm gonna have me throughout the course of this a Han. No, that's actually, this should be Luke, right? That's not Han. I think that's Luke.
That's gotta be Luke.
Yeah, that's Luke. So I'm having Luke and Emperor throughout the course of the podcast. But yeah, so super fun. Lucasfilm, they've been killing it with the edible Star Wars stuff lately. Between the blue milk on May the 4th and these Oreos for the summertime. It's a good time to be a Star Wars foodie, I guess you could say. So I'm looking forward to whatever else they can create, whether it be like in universe, like you buy it in a supermarket, like, oh yeah, let's buy Ronto wraps or something from Batu or something, you know.
Yeah, you know what I would love if they make, so like Little Debbie's makes those gingerbread iced gingerbread cookies during the winter. I would love if they make like, give us just like a little iced cookie like that, like from that company or something, and make it like a little Grogu or something, like little Grogu heads or something, like just because
Oh
those would
yeah.
be perfect for them, or like, because we just, I don't know, even though it's like the same thing, Star Wars food, like having stuff like that's always fun because, like you said, go back to '99, like the whole marketing thing of Phantom Menace. It was Pepsi, it was Pizza Hut, it was Taco Bell, like all these different places had Star Wars food merch everywhere, and it's, I don't know, it's like a staple of Star Wars, I would say.
Oh yeah, I mean it's the George Lucas genius with the marketing and getting stuff
Yep.
out there, getting the name out there. So there you go.
Oh
Look for
yeah.
these. If you're in the U.S., I know Target had an entire end cap of like hundreds of these sitting there. So um, I don't know about your usual mom and shop places. It might be harder to find them there, but yeah, go to your big box stores and you should be able to find the Star Wars Oreos. So getting into the show proper, we already went through the housekeeping. Okay. We are having a little bit of internet difficulty. It might be because of the heat, I'm thinking. So I'm gonna
Yeah,
keep
that's
on
that's what I was
push.
thinking. It might be.
I'm gonna keep on pushing on, and if I have to splice together this episode, I'll have to in post. But yes, you got to the Django Fett. You heard the Django Fett part, I'm guessing, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So me and Matthew Neugebauer over on the Star Wars Underworld, we put up our usual live talk show, which is our comic talk show, Tractor Beam, on Wednesday at 9. So you can check out our full review there. I'm hoping for more. It ends off with a cliffhanger. There could be more Jango Fett stories in some way, some shape, or form, but Ethan Sachs and Luke Ross and the team over there at Marvel knocked this one out of the park. Really good stuff. I also have a review for a very short review over on my YouTube channel, which you're already watching, or you can go to check out youtube.com/StarRaptor if you're listening. And the big news, I almost forgot to put this in the notes. Actually, I did forget to put it in the notes, so I'm just going off the top of my head here. This was big. Marvel finally announced the end of the current ongoing stories for Star Wars. It's taken long enough. We've been anticipating this for a while now. Issue number 50 for Darth Vader and Star Wars will be the final issue set between Empire Strikes Back into the lead up of Return of the Jedi. So they have basically there's going to be a Luke story for issue number 50. They're both oversized issues for Darth Vader and Luke. They're like over double sized issues. They're like 50 pages, which is huge for comics. They're usually like 22 pages without ads. So big mega sized issues for both of them. And the Luke one, the Star Wars one is going to focus on Luke with training Ben Solo and having like memories of what happened right before Return of the Jedi. So that should be cool. And the Darth Vader series is going to also have Luke Skywalker and different things going on with that one. The big thing with this one is they did announce they are going to a new era after this series. Now they said they will let us know in weeks to come, but they will begin this new era of Star Wars comics this year. So I'm very excited. I think it's safe to assume that in about a month's time from now, we might see something at a Marvel Comics panel at San Diego Comic-Con. I think that'd be a great way to kind of shepherd in the news. So my question to you, man, is what era would you like to see the new Star Wars comics in?
All right. Well, what would get me most interested, honestly, because I'm when it comes to a lot of the stuff under Disney in terms of like books and comics, I'm pretty critical of them because I just don't think a lot of stories, are up to par as, a lot of the old Legends were. And a lot of the reasons Legends was so successful is because, where it had its meat and potatoes was after episode 6 with Han, Luke, and Leia. So like for me, I would love, like even before you were talking about in our group chat, I would love for them with the comics and even on the book side of things, go after episode 9 because like the Rey movie presumably, I mean, I doubt it's going to be taking place like a year or two after Rise. I'm sure it'll be a nice time gap because
They
even
already
in
said
real
15
time,
years, didn't they?
oh yeah, okay. I was going to say I was going to say 15 years, but I didn't know if I was just like making that up as headcanon. Okay, so that was a number. Okay. So yeah, 15 years. You have a 15-year gap. What they need to do is they need to get like a general gist from Charmin Obaid-Chinoy, what she's doing with the Rey movie, and then just let writers go crazy in the comics and books leading up to it because that's what gave us like the meat and potatoes of Legends back in the day. It was having stories about your big three. Like give us a ton of stories of Rey, Finn, and Poe post episode 9, whether it be in the comics or the books. And I really think that would like really get people going again because like one of my good friends, he's said he's said a similar like degree of things. Like he hasn't checked out a lot of things under this era of books and publishing because it's not about Ray, Finn, and Poe. It's about like just other stuff. When he's like, hey, I'd love it to be about the main characters from those movies. So like for me personally as well, like I would love for them to do something after Rise. Give us like, Chris, kind of like a Zahn-esque, Heir to the Empire-esque, like a 3-book trilogy or even a 3-comic trilogy, whatever, after episode 9. Like, give us something to really kick off that post-Rise era, because I really don't want us to go clear to the Rey movie and them just not touch that era because, that's the next thing on screen. Like, give us content in that time slot, and I really think people would be interested with it. And on top of it, that's another reason, so many people are so, big fans of Luke because of Legends. Like, Legends expanded his character so much. And, like, this iteration with like, say, Rey, Finn, and Poe, you could do that, and then, like, just in a almost direct way, like how, like, the Legends did it with our original characters, you would make people really get more and more invested in your sequel trilogy characters, so I really think it'd be a good way just to get people interested in the era, especially leading up to the Rey movie, and then of course just getting more invested in Rey, Finn, and Poe. Like, I think that's where I would love to see them go. Like, I really hope that's where they go with it, I guess, is what I would say.
Yeah, I mean, imagine the marketing that would be behind the power of the marketing.
Yep.
With like, see what happens.
It would get me buying books. I can say that it would get me buying books.
Exactly, and if Marvel's in a tough spot right now, you know what's going to sell 1 million copies like Star Wars issue #1 did? Doing something like this, and then seeing, oh, what happens to the fate of your favorite characters in this book? Is like, all we know right now is Rey's alive. Like, we don't know if Finn survives 15 years later, or Poe, or whoever, right? So that would be something that would get a lot of people interested. So that's the first thing I think I told you. The other two possibilities, I've seen some people talking online, right? If you do it between Return of the Jedi and Force Awakens, I think they're going to have a lot of that period locked down with Favreau and Filoni. They don't want to really have too much going on with that. But let's say you play between that year, I think it was like a year between Battle of Jakku. Like, they could pick up literally right after Return. And now we've seen that they did the Shattered Empire miniseries already, so they already kind of opened up the door with Operation Cinder and all that kind of thing, with Palpatine's like orders to just start devastating. So we can see what's Luke doing at that time. We can see what is, because we actually don't know, other than Battlefront 2 campaign, we do see Leia and Luke and Han a little bit, but that's just like for a brief moment. So maybe to see those guys all back together working on something would be cool. What I'm really intrigued by, and I think a lot of people honestly are really hoping for this to happen. There's that 10-year gap between Attack of the Clones and between Attack of the Clones and Phantom Menace. And lately they've been pushing a lot of prequel content. I know me and Matthew and Tractor Beam, like, we're always commenting, like, there's been entire weeks where we have 2 or 3 prequel comics, so not even a single original trilogy comic, right? It's like really cool stuff happening over there. Like I said, they just finished a Jango Fett issue series. They finished a Mace Windu series. They're currently in a Darth Maul series. What's to say they're not priming us for some sort of prequel era comic? They put out Charles Soule, Anakin, and Obi-Wan 4-issue or 5-issue miniseries in that same time period. So we're already primed and ready to go. And I feel like the safest bet for them to not like trip on anything that the TV or movies are doing is to be working in that era, because literally nothing else is set in stone at that point. The movies are done. You could just come up with new villains, new adversaries and things like that if you need to, and you could go pretty much like without anybody holding you down on anything.
Here's one. Give us the full, because even in Legends, it was just like kind of wishy-washy. Like, it wasn't fully fleshed out. Maybe a couple stories here and there, but like, give us the whole like Grievous backstory, like that whole thing, leading into obviously he was already like in his like machine form by the time, in the background anyways, of Attack of the Clones. So like, why not give us like a Grievous, I don't know, 10 whatever 10 issue comic run on how he becomes Grievous and
I would
stuff,
like
because
to,
yeah.
I think, and if they go anything like they've been going in the last 5 years that they've had the license, right? There's always been the ongoing flagship series that's always supported by like two or three other ongoing books happening at the same time. Like for instance, we're getting done with this era in September, and they've always had bounty hunters, they've always had Dr. Aphra, Star Wars, and Darth Vader. So there's always like some criminal oriented one, some Dr. Aphra one, some dark side one, and then some like light side good guy one. So for instance, get Ethan Sachs to come back. He's done a great job with fleshing out the seedier side of the Star Wars galaxy. So make a bounty hunter comic in that era and just have R. Singh and Jango Fett working together. Then maybe obviously have like a Jedi of the Republic or something with Mace and Obi-Wan and Anakin.
Rowan Dirge.
Yeah, yeah. And then have like a Count Dooku series. And then that's where you can find out about Grievous, and that's how he can hire Jango Fett or whatever, and like all these other like things. So I think that would be really cool, and I know a lot of people would start buying them again, because there's a lot of people that are just kind of tired of seeing the same old characters over and over again. But it would definitely provide a lot of excitement, I think, for a lot of people to go back in time.
Oh yeah, like with me when it comes to like those types of things, like the comics and books wish list type of thing, I would say for sure, it's number one's for sure post episode 9, and then for two, like it was like on my like mental list, when you started talking about it before you even mentioned the pre Attack of the Clones era, it's that time gap between Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones. Like those are my top two things. Other than that, I feel like we've gotten content in most of the other slots, like the Clone Wars slots filled, post between 3 and 4 was filled. We have stuff between 4 and 5 and 5 and 6. We have obviously the Mandoverse going on now between 6 and 7. So like, and then of course like the plenty of Legends content out there. So like for me, I just would love for them to go bold and go post episode 9, because it would get someone like me buying these comics or buying these books or audiobooks and checking them out, because like I'd be invested in the stories. And it would help me like the Rey character more, like Poe more, and Finn more, and whoever else it may be, or whatever villain faction they're gonna try to build up for this series.
Heck yeah! So, yeah, we got Chris in the chat. He's saying, "Bring back Tag and Bink. Let's go crazy and do something stupid like an Ewok comic run." And it's funny because like those two things have gotten Marvel releases, or at least I don't think Tag and Bink might be canon now. I think they might have showed up in like the Han and Solo miniseries at some point.
Yeah, I think I remember they were in some series. Also, hey Chris, maybe for you, for your personal interest, why not give us a 5-issue limited Dash Rendar run?
Oh my gosh, yeah. Like I said, I the more and more I see of Outlaws, I feel like Kay Vest, the main character, is like our canon universe's version of Dash Rendar, right? It's a smuggler that's filling the gap of Han Solo when he's not around, and that's how you're playing in that time period, right, when he's in Carbonite. So, the jury's still out on that one, but hey, whatever. It is what it is. I'm still waiting for Black Sun to show up in some of the preview stuff. I think it's crazy how we could have all these new criminal factions and we're not seeing Fallon soldiers running around with Prince Zizor. Come on. So, hopefully he's just somebody they're holding their cards with. But anyway, that's coming out in 2 months about. But what's out now is The Acolyte, episode 4 of season 1. Maybe we're going to have more than one season, maybe. And that is called Day. So what are your thoughts, initial impressions on this episode, Ben?
All right, so overall for me with this episode, like, I would say, so like there's different levels to it, I would say. Like if you watch it straight away and not as like a hardcore fan combing over things, I think the episode in isolation is good. I do. But then once you kind of start to unpack things, I think that's where issues may arise with it, like certain issues with some of the plot, some of the just the way the scenes were, etc. And we'll unpack some of that. But like overall, I think the episode was entertaining. Face value, it's entertaining at minimum. I would say, just for what we got. Again, it's just another, it's just a dead horse that just is going to go on forever with Disney. But their run times are just atrocious. Like it shouldn't be a 28-minute run time. Like the episode like we need 45-minute episodes. Come on, Disney. Um, but like that's where some of like the critiques arise is like if these episodes were longer, then we would be able to like let some of this stuff breathe a little more and unpack certain things. But like I said,
Mm.
overall, I just think the episode in isolation is good. But as you start to unpack things, like I said, that's where you could like be like, ooh, I don't know about this or that, and we'll get into it. But that's kind of like my initial thoughts. In isolation, good. More as the wider scope of things, there's questionable aspects to it.
Yeah, it's a good assessment. For me, I was on board for the episode. I was enjoying it. I wasn't blown back or anything like, oh my gosh, like in the moment, like, oh, this is so amazing, this is so amazing. There was a lot of slower scenes, and that's kind of like the talk of this whole season so far. Is like while it has like the highest of highs with like a lot of the action sequences, the martial arts, it does slow down a lot, and there is a lot of just nuance going on with it, and there's a lot of aspects I like this splinter Jedi Council thing that is going underneath the guise of the actual High Jedi Council. They're kind of setting their own way, like starting they're like a little rebellion within the Jedi, trying to figure out what's going on. So I enjoyed that, and I enjoyed really seeing the Jedi traversing Kofar, I think is the name of the planet, in like Lord of the Rings fashion. Like that was straight Lord
I
of the
like
Rings.
seeing
Like,
them out in action,
yes,
exploring and doing something.
like seeing that many Jedi on a mission is really cool. Just seeing the different kind of Jedi too, just walking around. It was really neat to see that. The creature attack was pretty neat. But overall, like I feel like the episode rang kind of hollow for me. There was a
Yep.
nice moment between Jackie and with Osha that was like I was talking to you about. Like, yes, that was some good levity, like some people laughing, smiling. It's been a rather dour show, as it should be. I mean, there's people going around being smiling. It's been a rather dour show, as it should be. I mean, there's people going around.
All right, hello.
Yes, I am here. So that's the third disconnect. Sorry about that, everybody. We are back. We are back. I think the heat wave is doing some crazy stuff with the internet here. But
Yeah, you were talking about Kalnaka.
Kalnaka killed off screen was a little bit. I know we're going to see more flashbacks of him, probably. Hopefully, that's not deleted scenes they showed in trailers, but with him with the green lightsaber. Um, and then the May turn was a little bit too quick in my eyes. I was like, whoa, what the heck?
Yep.
Like, that's where I think, like, you were talking around, like, the duration of the episode. Like, give us more time to breathe. Like, if you had more time, we'd be able to see a little bit clearer, more clarification, because that felt very quick. And
Yeah.
the way the episode ended, like, really, you're gonna cut it there. Like, it's a good cliffhanger, but man, it's just like maybe cut it before he just starts blowing people away.
Wouldn't it have been better if they would have cut it as he came down like behind OSHA or something like I think or between like I think when he first landed, that's when it should have cut,
Yep.
versus just like mid sequence. I guess that's kind of like a little point we can bounce off of. So like the May thing, that's something for me. Like you said, if you have like a 45-minute runtime per episode, you could have built up May turning like earlier in the season, like maybe have her like showing more doubt or more remorse or just something. Um, and like even in this episode, up to this point, she's been with these, I guess, dark side people or whoever they are for 15 years or so, 15, 16 years. So she's already murdered a couple Jedi Masters, and then in this sequence alone, she's on her way like full bore, ready to take out Kalnaka and all this stuff, and then like just out of the blue, she's like, "Oh wait," talking to May, maybe someone talking to May, trying to get her to turn back to the good side or something, and maybe kind of like almost pseudo poison her mind to where she's like, "Oh my gosh, maybe I should turn good or whatever," like just something like that to like just plant the seeds, because we really haven't seen it up to this point, and then even in this episode alone it was like, nope, not really. So I don't know, I wasn't a huge fan of the way they did it so quickly. I mean, I guess if you're going to do it that way, I guess they're just doing it maybe to propel the plot quicker toward the masked villain being more of the villain the rest of the season versus May. I don't know. I just thought it was a very interesting way to do things with her.
Mm. Okay, I think I know the culprit behind the internet issue. It's because my
Uh-oh.
girlfriend is watching the boys downstairs, and I think the bandwidth on the internet is just not strong enough to have somebody streaming it in 4K, and then having somebody stream a broadcast at the same time. So, yeah, I should probably tell her to stop. But we're gonna carry on. We're gonna carry on here. It was a great episode this week on the boys, by the way. I'm really enjoying season 4, so she's catching up. But yeah, that was the thing, right? It's just it needed to be spread out. The thing that I keep discussing with you, right, is just the idea of, okay, we're only halfway through the season. There's more to go, but I'll get to this into this after the discussion of this specific episode. It's just like, okay, we got a large enough sample size to start to determine how we're feeling about the series overall. It's not just 2 episodes. We have gotten half of the story at this point. So that's kind of where that goes. Is like I look at the episodes in a vacuum, but then I also look at them now as like the greater piece of this cog of like, okay, where is this sitting for me right now? And I just still feel like it might be because the episodes are a little shorter that I feel like I'm not spending enough time with these characters to really be concerned, to really be won over just yet.
Yeah, I can relate to that. Like for me, I think the way they've done it, like me personally, other than Soul and like interest in Chimere and stuff, like obviously Stenberg's acting has been great. With, in my opinion, I think her May acting is outshines her Osha acting. I would say but the character I'm most interested in, that's not like the main people, is I would have loved to seen like some more stuff with Jecky's character. Like her character is a
Yeah.
good side character, and we barely get little popping. She pops in here and there. Basically, she's just like in the background. But like when she's on screen, she's on screen. Like her acting presence is really good on screen. Like even in the second episode when they're investigating Chimera, like she comes up with the whole plan about like the
Yeah.
using ocean stuff. Like her presence is felt on screen, and I really really would have liked to seen more of her by now. Um, so yeah, like her little moment with Osha, I thought was really good, like you mentioned in our intro. Um, and Yeah, I think a lot of this stuff, honestly, the critiques of this show and things fall on these runtimes, because like even we were discussing in our messages before, we have the Kalnaka off-screen death. Like for me with that, I mean, we've been talking about this since they showed Kalnaka like pictures of him a year ago or two. We've been talking about, oh my gosh, what's it going to be like to see a Jedi Wookiee in action? And even in this season, like building up, it's like, oh man, you're getting to kind of the final boss. You beat Indara, you beat Torben, and now you even have in this episode, it's teased like May says like, how am I supposed to beat a Wookiee without any weapons? And she's being questioned. She's questioning it and everything. So it's kind of like building up that tension, like, oh my gosh, how's she gonna do it? And then we get there, and he's already dead, and it's like, wait, like we needed to see that fight, because like now, even
Yeah.
even if they show us like a fight in a flashback, it's kind of
Mm-hmm.
like showing you the end of the movie and then being like, oh wait, or it's like, you know what I mean? It's kind of like teasing something, and then you show it after the fact, after we've already been kind of like rolled our eyes at it, like we wanted to see it earlier in live and present day versus like just a flashback thing. Because I think, like, better than not, there's like a chance we get some sort of flashback to the villain talking about killing Kalnaka or something, just because like that's like a villain tropey type thing to do. So like I don't know, I just really wish they would have showed us that, or at least half the fight. Show us half of it and then cut away or something.
Yeah, it's just, yeah, it's weird how Hollywood is. It's just like bringing us up with all this hype, and it's just like it's kind of evaporating. It's kind of, but I want to talk about that end moment, the end moment of
Yep.
whatever this character, he, she, it. I don't know what to refer to this thing as, because it is like
Leslie said
almost
he, so
non-human. I mean, like unnatural. The way I mean by that is like just the way this thing kind of moves its head, it looks like it's a creature more than like a humanoid, just like an insect or something. The way that it turns its head, and it's just like very weird. The way it just floats down from the air, just hovers behind it with the unfocused view and the focused view on Osha's face and the terror she's feeling. Like she senses this darkness behind her, and then it just like flippantly just waves its hand and she just goes flying and then it ends up, so as we all know, just like force push times 10. Just there go like 8 Jedi, just some of our masters all succumb like to this one force wave. Like, wow, we haven't even seen a Sith or a Jedi have this kind of power in anything before. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. No, we haven't. Like you said, we haven't really seen Sith or Jedi show this type of like force pushing ability on screen to this point, and it's just crazy to see it because like the thing is too like the way they're doing things. Like I feel like this episode it broadcasted or like it kind of laid it out on a silver platter. Like it feels like they're trying to set it up to be Chimere based on like this episode. Like you have just the lead up conversation. You have even Chimere like saying like part of the Sith code in earlier episodes, those type of things. And like to me, what the most fascinating thing about all this to think about is, so we have because it was my comparison in the first episode in our premiere podcast. You can go back and find it there. But I like think about it as like, what if like Chimere's character is kind of like your reverse Yoda in Empire, where Yoda's acting dumb and crazy, and then turns out to be the big Jedi. Like, what if Chimere's just acting like this bumbly potion wannabe dealer guy, and he turns out to be, the Sith? Because even he, he talks about like how he tracked, how does he specifically know exactly where the Wookiee is, but nobody else can? Like, even the Jedi need to use a tracker. So, like, I think it's gonna be Chimere, because even look at May, like when she walks in, she senses him and she's like, oh my gosh, my he's here, and like all of this stuff. And to me, the crazy thing to think about is like, I think there's a chance like Chimere is this masked character and is going to be this dark side like entity guy, because we've seen like the Emperor do some weird hovering stuff in Clone Wars before. So like, there's a precedent for it. It's just the thing.
And we're back.
All right, we're back. Hello.
Okay, so the last thing we were talking about was just the reverse of Yoda.
Oh yeah. Okay. All right. So like when it comes to me, like my whole idea with Chimere, came from like the whole kind of reverse of Yoda from Empire, where it's like, we have this like goofy guy, running a potion shop. Maybe he's like a wannabe Sith or something, or wannabe, Sith, like a Sith follower. And then, what if he turns out to be the big villain? Because, it could be like a reverse of Yoda, where Yoda on one end of the spectrum, if you look at him in isolation, is this goofy little green guy, and then goes to the powerful Jedi Master. Like, what if Chimere's the same goofy guy to, holy smokes, he's like this actual competent dark side user? And I was saying, like, if you think about it, if Chimere's the Acolyte, like the Acolyte, is like a student, like that's kind of what like the definition is and stuff. So like the thing is to think about, if he's the Acolyte, it just makes you question who's the big bad over him. Like who's training like Chimere is the interesting thing. So I just if it ends up being Chimere, like it's going to open up a lot of questions on who the heck is he underneath, because like we already see how powerful he is. So there's that. And then on top of it, one more thing before I let you pop in on this, Chris, is, we still have not seen the line from Master Soul yet where he says, "What are you?" And he's like in terror when he's like saying it. So like, what's it mean? What are you,
Yeah, exactly. The Jedi at this point are so long gone from the Sith. And they can't even fathom the idea that what's going on is related to the Sith because they've been gone for a millennium. So they are just so set in their ways. That's where the downfall is in the prequels too. They just don't acknowledge like there's no way a Sith can infiltrate the Jedi and the Republic. That's impossible. So we're seeing those ideas here. They don't even want to float the idea. Even in the High Republic, like they're not even caring. That's another 100 years before this. Like they don't ever think anything is really a Sith. It's always just a fallen Jedi or somebody in another kind of Force sect that isn't the Jedi.
Yep.
Things like that. They call them just like dark side users and whatnot.
Yep.
Let's go ahead and address the cone head that's in the room. So,
the talking point of the internet.
Coyote comes in this episode, and I didn't know it was him. Like until I paused,
I didn't either.
Until I paused the episode at the end and look at all the cast, and I'm like, okay, that's definitely them. Because apparently on StarWars.com, that Kel Doran is not actually Plo Koon, but it's a female called Kel Dor. Of a different name, I don't know off the top of my head. But no, that is Coyote Mundi. And yeah, some people might have had issues with the character, so I'll let you go on with this one.
All right. So the more I've thought about it, this is my my college level breakdown of the situation. So when it comes to the Coyote Mundi situation, people were going crazy. For starters, we'll get this out of the way. So people were going crazy because they changed his birth date. But the thing is, his birth date in the Wikipedia databanks was from Legends, and people forget that Legends aren't canon at the moment. So, we can take that off the board. And then the other thing that people were talking about is the whole line from Phantom Menace saying, hey, the Sith have been extinct for a millennia. So, that's an initial criticism I had with the situation, because it was like, okay, what's going on here? But the more that I thought about it, I think for me, like it makes sense. Like on paper, makes sense for the story, etc. Because they technically don't say Sith in that sequence, so it's not like flying too much in the face of the stuff in the Phantom Menace. But this is where I get critical of it. So, this is more just from a creative aspect, as if I was creating the show. It's always like, oh, if a fan was creating the show. But it's just, I get critical of it because it's like, all right, we have Coyote Mundi on the board. So we're going to have him be the character that's appearing in this sequence. And okay, so, I see a lot of people online discussing this, where it's like, all right, well, technically they don't say Sith in the scene, so it's fine. Okay. So follow me here on this. This is my reasoning, I think, what's triggering people. So if they don't say Sith, then my thing is, as a creative, I'm not even going to use Coyote Mundi, because it's kind of like a backdoor pilot, or it's a backdoor way to get a controversy like this started, versus if you just pop in any other Jedi there, any other random Jedi, it could be Yarrow Poof or someone. Nobody would have said a word. But the problem is, it's the guy who talked about the Sith in Phantom Menace, and that's what's triggering people. So for me, it's just more from a creative aspect, where it's I just think they should have been more calculated on choosing Coyote Mundi, because of the potential backlash of it. Even though it makes sense, on paper, logistically, it makes sense because they don't say Sith, whatever. But the thing is, just externally, it's you should have just used a different character like Yarrow Poof or whoever it may be, just because then people wouldn't have said anything, because it wasn't the character that talked about Sith during Phantom Menace. So I think that's where a lot of the issue with it comes from, is that whole thing. And this is the other aspect of my critique of it, before I let you on the Coyote subject. I think what they should do is, if you're going to go down the route of potentially just kind of getting, leaning into a potential controversy waiting to happen, if you're going to do it, lean all the way into it. Have Coyote Mundi go on one of these missions, witness the Sith, witness the villains, and make him actually have some sort of guilt where he has to cover up and really lay it on, make him kind of like a fall guy, where he's dealing with this guilt for the next 100 years or whatever. So I would either, yeah, I would either cut him out of it completely and just use a different random Jedi, because if there's no point in him being in the scene, like people are saying, then why use him? And then on the other side, if you're going to use him, lean into it. Like, I would love, honestly, not going to lie, I know this might trigger people, but in these next 4 episodes, I would love Master Soul, or I would, because I feel like a lot of the Jedi are about to get slaughtered by the mask character in the next episode. But I would love for like Master Soul to go back to Coruscant and Ki-Adi-Mundi join in on the mission and really cover up the Sith thing. Like maybe in the finale, I don't know, Soul gets taken out by the mask character and Ki-Adi somehow escapes, and then he has to deal with the guilt of not being able to save his fellow Jedi friend and whatever, and cover it up completely. Like, I would rather them lean into it than not.
Yeah, that's a good point about the whole thing with Ki-Adi-Mundi and covering it up, because for the High Republic Phase 2, spoilers real quick, you can fast forward about 20 seconds from now if you don't want to be spoiled on the ending of Phase 2. But basically, Yoda and Creighton's son both know that there's these nameless force-sucking creatures that can kill Jedi, and they don't know what to do with them, so they're like, let's just cover it up. Let's just not talk about it. And they like literally deleted stuff off the computers, and then it's like another 150 years later, and guess what? Those same creatures are back in the fold again, and now Yoda's kind of having to go around and find this information. So like, it's not unbeknownst to the Jedi to do sketchy stuff like that. Where I think people are obviously really mad about this, but I think they've specifically put Ki-Adi-Mundi in as a way, in my head canon, to be like, look how close he was to the Jedi discovering the Sith. Like, just the idea that he was like on that little mini council. They didn't mention Sith once. Like, they were so close of figuring out this mystery, this millennium old mystery of the power of two or whatever. And he was like right on a precipice of identifying it, and he couldn't. And it just like makes his character even more of like a downfall when you get to the Phantom Menace, because it's like, dude, you were like 100 years ago, you were with those people, or in coordination, communication with them. Like, I think it just adds a little bit more depth and like more irony to the character or something.
Oh yeah, I get that. It does from like that perspective. I just think it's like, you know what I mean? But you know what I mean? You know what I was like explaining? Like, you know, it's just like so much shock value for fans because they immediately think of Phantom Menace, and it's like, wait, like, because, you know, we talked about it heading into this show. Like, depending on how they deal with the Sith stuff, you know, they're gonna play like semantics games to like kind of work around it, which they did in that scene. You know, they say a split order. I think they said a splinter order. A splinter order is the term they used.
Yep.
So like, you know, in normal context, they'd probably just be saying like a Sith or something. But like, you know, you have to play word games to kind of like navigate this timeline. So I just think that's where like a lot of this is coming from. But yeah, I get it. Like, you know, like you said, it's just, you know, it can add to his character more. But yeah, for me, ideally, I would love for them to like lean into it even further. Like even if you have it from like the perspective of, like you said, you could cut it off right here and we never see Ki-Adi-Mundi again and just have him, you know, almost know about it like that. But I would personally just love for them to lean all the way into it and be like, hey, Ki-Adi-Mundi straight up covered it up, and he has to live with this guilt of all these Jedi getting taken out, and he just sat there and like, you know, he was like the lone survivor or something. So like, I would love for it to go in that direction. But yeah, I don't know. The Ki-Adi-Mundi thing's such a crazy discussion because I would have never thought in a million years you would have people like hardcore defending Ki-Adi-Mundi on the internet and hardcore going against him, like being like, you know, oh my gosh, they changed so much about him, whatever, or oh my gosh, like, it's totally fine what they do. Like, I would have never thought fans would be debating Ki-Adi-Mundi of all characters, but it's like, here we are, when there's a lot more, like, in normal circumstances, this kind of goes back to my opening dialogue on this episode. In normal circumstances, like, I would be willing to bet you anything. I mean, I'm guessing you'd probably agree with me on this, but I bet you anything in normal circumstances with this show. Like, say if this show was going, like, more universally well. Like, say if this show was, like, at a B level for people. like I guarantee you, all people would be talking about, all we'd see is like theories on who the Sith is, who the Sith is, who the Sith is. But now it's just everybody posting Kiadi Mundi videos, and I'm like, oh my gosh, people, like we have this Sith character just popping in, and nobody's talking about it basically. So, and nobody's talking about the power level, like you pointed out. He like, boom, like pushed the Jedi Masters completely out of frame. So like, I just
why are we not talking about that? Yeah, why are we so concerned about a stupid character that no one cared about in the first place? No one gave a crap about Coyote Money. Why are we suddenly caring so much about his freaking age based off a CD-ROM companion thing that said his age was 70 something? Like, in George Lucas's mind, that was like the lowest tier of canon to begin with. It wasn't even like he was in a book or a TV show that was important to know what his age was. It was just like a little random fact in like one of those CD-ROM things that was like out around the movie. You click around, you say, "Oh, that character is Coyote Money. Here's his profile. He's 76." Like whatever it was. It was like, this is like just beyond stupid at this point.
Oh, it is. It is. Like that's the thing people don't realize. Like, it's that. I mean, it's not like they're going into canon and like, I don't know. You're just like, I mean, what could be something erroneous? Like, I don't know, go into canon and like make Yoda Anakin's dad or something. Like, they're not doing something like that. Like, it's like, I don't know. I just feel like with people, they like they're going after the wrong things in these episodes. Like the critiques, the critiques are like in the wrong direction. Like for me, like we talked about, like, sure, you know, you can dissect the Kiadi Mundi situation however you do, but I think there's a lot of other issues with this episode that's non-Kiadi Mundi related. Like, you know, the Wookiee, the May turn, even when I saw John Campia point out, I just have to bring it up because it's kind of like, you know, it's just like interesting a TV point. But like he mentioned, just the travel. The travel is really odd because you have like May in the second episode, gung ho, ready to go right to go kill Kalnaka, and then you have enough time for our heroes to go all the way back to Coruscant, and then turn around and go all the way back to Kofar, and they're only like 30 seconds to a minute right behind May in the woods, and it's like, wait, did May like stop to go out to eat or something?
Yeah,
or like
probably.
why is their travel time so, you know, it's so similar? So it's just like interesting creative choices like that, that I think, you know, you can like dissect this episode more than just Kiadi Mundi. Like,
Yeah,
I really think
when it comes to like travel in Star Wars, I've given up on trying to make it logical in my head and rationalize it because, like, I don't know what to say. Like, their ship is crappy and their hyperdrive is like really old, or Coruscant was probably on the way to Kofar. Maybe they were there for just like half a day, and then the Jedi, the Republic ships have a much better hyperdrive. They know better hyperspace routes, or so. I don't know. There's a lot of ways to explain it. So since it's not on Earth, you know, it's not like we're driving from New Jersey over to the border of Pennsylvania, and why is the person in the town over from where they're supposed to be in Pennsylvania and still not there yet? Like it's hard to it's on paper it's a valid criticism, but for me personally, I don't get too bothered by something like that. But
well, no, another thing I meant to bring up though earlier, like on the more, see, this is where people are like, you know, not talking about the mass character, not talking about like the interesting points of this episode, and they're just debating the Mundi stuff. Here's another thing, Chris. I think there's a better and better chance to my theory from maybe like, or from the last episode when we talked about the witches situation, or even in 2 weeks ago when we talked about the second episode, is I think there's a chance Osha turns to the bad side, and May, we have May coming good now, and like even in this episode, Osha's telling Yord, hey, make sure you kill her if you can, basically, about May. So like my thing is like, what if Osha turns bad because like Souls warned her plenty, like a couple different occasions in this, like, you don't want to seek revenge, Osha, blah blah blah, like all this stuff. So it's like maybe we get like a heel turn where May just got her turning good moment, and what if Osha goes bad here?
Yeah, it's interesting because Osha, last we've seen, can't even use the Force right now. Like something happened. I don't know how she even was in the Jedi Temple. Was she always like kind of a little bit off with using the Force. Is that one of the reasons why she left? I don't believe we still even have a reason why she left the Order, right?
No, they keep referencing her leaving, her leaving, her leaving, and it's like, did they kick her out because they seen some dark side stuff in her potentially? Like that's what I wonder. It's like, there's so many more interesting things I think to talk about in this episode that people are overlooking on social media because it's like everyone's debating the 10, and at the end of the day, like the Caddy Mooney thing is literally like 8 or 10 seconds. Like it's not like it was just some egregious thing. So my thing is like there's a lot of more interesting things to discuss than like the Caddy Mundi thing, and it's like, is Osha gonna go bad? Who's the masked character? Because like I said, any other circumstance, all the talk on social media would be, who the heck is this character? Is it Chimere? Is it Darth Plagueis? Is it Darth Tenebrous? Is it the Witch Mom? Is it any of these characters? Like versus, it just being a debate about a 10-second scene.
Yeah, and the last criticism I'll have on the episode is the certain scenes, they do get to me with like the quality. I think it's the lighting. I'm pretty much positive it is because it is like overly bright in the Jedi Council, the Jedi Temple's like indoor interiors.
Oh yeah, it's
like,
way too bright.
It's way too bright because I'm looking at the characters and it's almost reminding me of like a cosplay. Like a higher grade cosplay, like actors talking in cosplay or something. Like, yeah, I know actors in cosplay. Isn't that just like a movie? Yes, I know, but I'm saying like something about it feels a little off in a way that I haven't really seen in a Star Wars show as of yet.
Yeah, I mean, I can agree with that. Like you have, like you said, the inside the temple scenes, like when it's so. I mean, heck, when I'm sitting here watching it in a dark room, it's like blasting me bright. It's like, whoa, this is like a flashbang on my screen right now. It's so bright. And like the thing is, I saw someone tweet about it. I can't even give credit because it was just some random Twitter that popped up the other day. But it was like, you watch this episode, and the cinematography is good because it's more wider shots. It's more like natural looking. It's more movie-esque looking. And then you get shots that are like in the temple and it's like blinding you with light because it's so bright, and it's like I don't know, they haven't found their balance in terms of like the look, I think, of this show.
Yeah,
because like you said, it's kind of like Lord of the Rings, going on a journey in this, and it looks good.
Yeah, I feel like the darker scenes and the scenes outdoors and whatnot are really good looking scenes. The first sequence in the very first episode when she's,
or I guess the other planet, wherever Chimere was, the Torben episode where Torben gets killed, that one, like, even though it's outside and it's daylight and stuff, it's still more of like in the afternoon, maybe 5 or 6 p.m. where it's getting a little darker and it looks good. So like, I think honestly, if they would have like, even though you can't really do it because you got to show like different times of day and stuff for just TV and movies, but like, I think just the look of the show would be better if it was just set at like 6 p.m. consistently.
Oh man, but I did enjoy the sequence with the insect, the killer insect, and Soul just whipping out the lightsaber, wielding that and just slicing. Part of the Star Wars DNA.
Oh, for sure. Here's a question for you, Chris. Do you think, my friend raised this question to me, and I didn't even think about it this way. Do you think they had, okay, so Soul kills that creature. Do you think there's a chance maybe the reason they didn't have like a bunch of those creatures come out, like it's going to be kind of like your mechanism potentially for like Soul and Osha, like, because I think there's a chance Yord probably gets killed, or some of these Jedi get killed by this character in the next episode. So like, I think whoever makes it out of the woods alive, I think there's a chance, like my friend brought this up and I was like, dang, it's a good chance. Like we've seen creatures in Star Wars, like what if like a whole swarm of these things just start like, I don't know, somehow going at the masked character, and like it gives your Soul just enough time to escape or something.
Yeah, it definitely seemed strange how only one of them came out after him. So I think they definitely are going to hold something back prior for the next episode. But yeah, let's go ahead and cue up our final thoughts and score out of 10. I'll start this one off. I was a little bit mixed on this episode. There were some really high highs and some low lows, if that makes any sense. But yeah, as far as like the council stuff, the temple stuff was a little off. But then I really liked the beast stuff. I liked the interaction between Osha and between Jackie. I agree. I want to see more Jackie Long. She's great. She's great. Great, awesome sequencing of like walking in a straight line like Lord of the Rings. And that was some of the most hype moment with this dark side character wiping out Jedi. So there are just as much good things as bad things in this episode for me. So I'm gonna have to stick with what I gave it last week, and I'll give it a 6.5.
Yeah, I mean, I can agree with a lot of those sentiments, and I feel like that's where I'm really hovering with this show as a whole. Just because it feels like, we get high moments that are really interesting and cool. Like you get the cool like shots in this episode. You get the cool entrance of the masked character. You get I really liked Stenberg so dang well. And I'm so interested because if he is the bad guy, I want to see how he's going to act as a villain. Because if his acting's this,
All right, I think we're back. We're gonna have to end this episode pretty quickly because this keeps on happening, but we're right at the end. So thank you everybody in the chat that's been very active, by the way, as my disconnects every 5 minutes has just made things rather difficult for tonight. But I think I know the culprit, right? I think I know what's going on.
Yep.
But yes, okay. So we're getting a 1.5 from Chris Forsyth in the chat.
I can see it.
Yeah, I know he gave me warning. He's like, I'm not really liking this episode that much, but hey, I understand, man. Like that, some people just aren't jiving with this, just for whatever reason. So, hey, your opinion is your opinion, and we respect that, right? We're positive here, and there's things we like, and certainly, like we said today, there's things we don't like about this series. But as I was saying before, just we're halfway through. Overall picture, I'm feeling okay about the series. I was really hoping it would be blowing my socks off right now. There's room for that to still happen, but I think at this point, even if it was the next episodes were all amazing, I would still say, well, the first half wasn't amazing. So I can't be fully on board with like an amazing score if the first 4 episodes were not that high in my mark. So I think right now we're kind of hovering in that Book of Boba Fett, Obi-Wan territory for me at the time, but we shall see.
Yep. Yeah. Hey, one thing, a little tiny transition, even away from the Acolyte. Shout out to the Kenobi show because yesterday was the 2-year anniversary of the finale of Kenobi for anybody that didn't realize that.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Yep, we got a lot of Star Wars anniversaries in May. Now, there you go. We got a Star Wars anniversary in the end of June there. But yeah, so we're going to be back next week, or this upcoming week, on Friday, actually, at 9 p.m. Eastern. So we're returning to our original time slot just for this week only. I'm going to be traveling, so I want to get a show in, of course, because we're in the middle of a review season for Star Wars, so we got to get our thoughts here. I love talking Acolyte. I love talking any Star Wars on a weekly basis. So thanks Disney and Lucasfilm for not just like binge watch dropping these all at once, because, love it or hate it, it is fun still being involved with talking on a weekly basis about shows that are coming out from Lucasfilm. So yes, we'll be live next Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern. I'll definitely make that clear on my social media. You can find me at Star Raptor on Twitter. And where can they find you, Ben?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Real Ben Maynard. I'm always talking Star Wars, trying to be positive on there, trying to be more positive. But talking Star Wars on Twitter, talking fitness on Instagram, or just sharing funny Instagram reels that I see that pop up, because there are so many good ones on there. Especially if you're a Star Wars fan, there's so many great Instagram reels. But yeah, you can find me on both of those platforms. And then you can find Milton at MiltonWeber7 on Twitter, and then Milton7Weber on Instagram. And he's always seeming to post like fitness stuff or like funny stuff as well, or he just like shares like his random like meals he makes and things. So yeah, that's where you can find all 3 of us.
Yeah, there you go. So for Milton, who couldn't join us, for Ben, for Chris, aka Starper, and for everybody in the chat room, thanks for joining us tonight. We'll see you on Friday at 9 o'clock Eastern time. That's going to do it for all of us here at Outer Rim Transmissions, episode 158. Thanks for watching. May the Force be with you always. End transmission.